In a rapidly escalating geopolitical landscape, tensions between China and the United States are once again flaring, this time fueled by a series of confrontational incidents in the South China Sea and contentious trade policies. On February 19, 2025, events unfolded that highlight the fragility of international relations in the region as both nations exchanged sharp condemnations over territorial disputes and economic strategies. The U.S. condemned what it termed dangerous maneuvers by China after a Chinese Navy helicopter approached within 10 feet of a Philippine patrol plane. This incident occurred over the Scarborough Shoal, a strategically significant area that has been a flashpoint for maritime disputes. The Philippine aircraft belonging to the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources was conducting what officials described as a routine low-altitude patrol when the Chinese helicopter attempted to assert control over the airspace which Beijing claims as its own. U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines Mary K.L. Carson voiced her concern, stating, "We condemned the dangerous maneuvers by a PLA Navy helicopter that endangered pilots and passengers on a Philippine air mission. This condemnation aligns with the United States' commitment to support its ally the Philippines as it faces increasing pressure from China. The Philippines has been reinforcing its security alliances with the U.S., Japan, and Australia amid a backdrop of heightened tensions over territorial claims and resource rights in the South China Sea." Beijing, however, countered by asserting that the Philippine plane had illegally entered Chinese airspace. Colonel Tian Juanli of the Southern Theater Command claimed that the Philippine actions severely violated China's sovereignty. This clash underscores the ongoing friction in the region, exacerbated by China's assertive military presence and the Philippines' determination to uphold its rights. In parallel to these maritime tensions, the economic front has also seen a significant escalation, particularly concerning trade relations. China recently condemned what it referred to as tariff shocks initiated by the Trump administration during its time in office. These tariff policies aimed at protecting U.S. industries have drawn criticism for disrupting global trade dynamics and straining relations with key trading partners, including China. The World Trade Organization (WTO) has become a battleground for these disputes, with China urging the international community to address the detrimental impact of unilateral tariffs. A representative from China emphasized tariff shocks undermine the foundations of the global economy and create instability in international trade. The U.S. has responded robustly, maintaining that such measures are necessary to protect national interests and reshape trade practices that it views as unfair. Both the military and economic tensions illustrate a broader narrative of competition and conflict between the U.S. and China, reflecting diverging national interests and strategic objectives. As the Philippines and the U.S. reaffirm their commitment to oppose aggressive maneuvers by China, the implications of these confrontations extend beyond the immediate region, impacting global trade and security frameworks. Looking ahead, the international community will be closely watching how these tensions unfold, particularly as the Philippines prepares to lodge formal diplomatic protests against China's recent actions. The interplay between military posturing and economic negotiations will be critical in shaping the future of U.S.-China relations, with both nations seeking to assert their influence in the Asia-Pacific region. As the situation develops, it remains to be seen whether diplomatic channels can effectively address these pressing issues or if the cycle of confrontation will continue to escalate. A Chinese court has commenced proceedings against 23 alleged members of a notorious telecommunications fraud gang linked to Myanmar, marking a significant development in the ongoing battle against organized crime that transcends borders. This gang, known as the Ming family, is accused of orchestrating a series of heinous crimes, including telecom fraud, extortion, drug trafficking, and even murder, which collectively resulted in the death of 14 Chinese nationals and left 6 others wounded. The situation underscores a complex web of crime that has not only led to financial losses amounting to billions of yuan but also posed a serious threat to public safety. Prosecutors in Wenzhou, located in China's eastern Zhejiang province, outlined the extensive criminal activities allegedly carried out by the Ming family since 2015. According to state broadcaster CCTV, the gang leveraged both influence and armed forces to establish industrial parks in Kokong, a region in Myanmar's Shan state that shares a border with China's Yunnan province. These parks reportedly served as operations hubs for scammers who employed a variety of tactics from fake investment schemes to phishing scams to target unsuspecting victims. The allegations against the Ming family are particularly chilling as evidence presented in court suggests that members of the gang resorted to extreme violence to maintain control. In October 2023, for instance, they allegedly executed Chinese captives attempting to flee while being transported to another compound. This brutal episode highlights the lengths to which organized crime networks will go to enforce their will in silence dissent. At the helm of this criminal enterprise was Ming Xuechang, a Chinese Myanmar national with a controversial political background. Ming was reportedly a member of Myanmar's Shan state legislature and had ties to the Kokon Leadership Committee. The implications for both nations are significant. For China, the prosecution of these criminals is essential not only for restoring public trust but also for sending a strong message that organized crime will not be tolerated. For Myanmar, the situation is more complex as it highlights the challenges of governance and law enforcement in regions where local authorities may lack the resources or capability to combat entrenched criminal enterprises. Looking ahead, the outcome of this trial could set a precedent for how cross-border crime is addressed in the region. It raises critical questions about international cooperation in law enforcement, the effectiveness of existing legal frameworks, and the potential for more stringent measures to combat organized crime. As both countries navigate these challenges, the need for a coordinated approach will become increasingly apparent. Highlighting the interconnected nature of crime and security in an era where borders are becoming less significant in the face of globalization. China's economic ambitions are facing a critical juncture as the nation sets its sights on a 5% growth target for 2025 amid skepticism from consumers and analysts alike. The challenge lies not only in external pressures such as the ongoing trade tensions with the United States but also in internal dynamics including changing consumer behavior and the country's burgeoning clean energy sector, which has begun to play a pivotal role in its economic landscape. Recent data indicates that clean energy has reached a significant milestone, contributing over 10% to China's GDP for the first time in 2024, equivalent to approximately 13.6 trillion yuan, $1.9 trillion. This sector has become a crucial engine for economic growth, accounting for nearly a quarter of the country's overall GDP growth last year. The rise of clean energy, particularly in solar electric vehicles (EVs) and batteries, underscores a transformative shift in China's economic model as it moves away from traditional sectors such as real estate, which has seen a decline in value. The findings highlight that without the contribution of clean technologies, China's GDP would have expanded by only 3.6%, falling short of the targeted 5%. As Lori Miliverta, lead analyst at the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air, pointed out, the growth in clean energy sectors played a key role in driving their overall contribution to GDP in 2024. This reflects a broader trend where significant investments in clean energy are reshaping the economic landscape and setting the tone for future growth. However, the path forward is fraught with challenges, particularly in light of U.S. President Donald Trump's recent tariff proposals. The proposed tariffs of 25% on imports, including automobiles and chips, are expected to disproportionately affect China's regional competitors such as South Korea and Japan while sparing China itself. Analysts suggest that the proposed duties are likely to strain supply chains and could lead to unpredictable secondary effects for Chinese companies deeply integrated into global supply networks. There are very few direct exports to the U.S., noted Cui Dongshu, Secretary General of the China Passenger Car Association, emphasizing the limited impact on China's auto sector. As China grapples with these external pressures, it must also contend with a domestic market that is increasingly cautious. Consumer sentiment is critical. A lack of confidence in economic growth could dampen spending and investment, thereby complicating efforts to meet the ambitious 5% growth target. The dichotomy between government targets and consumer realities poses a significant challenge. According to analysts from Natixis, the duties would have a minimal impact on China's auto sector, but the broader implications for the economy remain complex and layered. In addition to the immediate impacts of tariffs and consumer sentiment, the clean energy sector itself is experiencing a period of adjustment. While it has been a beacon of growth, the sector is also facing issues related to oversupply and declining manufacturing prices. This has led to weakened profitability across several clean energy industries, particularly in the solar sector, where the nominal value of production has fallen despite strong volume growth. The recent boom in clean energy has led to concerns over excess capacity, with calls for measures to stabilize the manufacturing landscape. Looking ahead, the trajectory of China's economy will hinge on strategic policymaking and the successful integration of clean energy into the broader economic framework. The government is expected to introduce new targets and policies in the upcoming 5-year plan, which will shape the direction of clean energy investment and its role in economic growth. As China navigates these challenges, the interplay between external factors, consumer confidence, and the evolution of the clean energy sector will be crucial in determining whether it can achieve its ambitious growth goals. China can continue to leverage its clean energy sector as a cornerstone of its economic strategy. In the tense landscape of international relations, few issues are as pivotal as China's strategic investments in ports across the Western Hemisphere. Recently, Matthew Kronig, vice president of the Atlantic Council and a senior director at its Scowcroft Center for Strategy and Security, provided a sobering assessment of these investments during a testimony before the U.S. House Committee on Homeland Security. Kronig's insights, drawn from over 2 decades of experience in national security policy, underscore the profound implications these developments hold for U.S. homeland security and regional stability. Kronig opened his remarks by emphasizing the critical nature of China's port investments in the Western Hemisphere, which he categorically deemed a significant national security threat to the United States and its allies. China's port investments in the Western Hemisphere pose a serious national security threat to the United States and its allies and partners in the region, he stated. Chinese-operated ports are reportedly used to facilitate the shipment of fentanyl precursors into the United States, thereby compounding existing drug-related challenges. Kronig highlighted the strategic implications of these investments, particularly in the context of military operations. He warned that in the event of a geopolitical conflict, Chinese control over key ports could hinder U.S. naval operations and restrict access to vital supply routes. China could use deep water ports to host People's Liberation Army Navy vessels, enabling the projection of military power into the Western Hemisphere, he noted, illustrating the far-reaching consequences of these developments. To counteract China's growing influence, Kronig proposed a series of strategic recommendations for the United States. He urged U.S. policymakers to encourage countries in the Western Hemisphere to adopt a cautious approach to Chinese investments, advocating for a de-risking strategy. This would involve maintaining trade relations with China while carefully decoupling from Chinese influence in sensitive sectors such as telecommunications, advanced technology, and critical infrastructure. Kronig also praised recent moves by the Panamanian government to reconsider its participation in China's Belt and Road Initiative. He suggested that Panama's current audit of port operators presents an opportunity to sever contracts with Chinese firms and invite U.S. or allied companies to take over, thereby aligning with American interests. However, he cautioned that Washington must not expect regional partners to act without incentives. To effectively compete with Chinese investments, the U.S. needs to offer credible alternatives that prioritize quality and ethical standards. The United States must provide credible and affordable alternatives to Chinese infrastructure investments, Kronig emphasized, calling for a coordinated approach involving allies to leverage technological and financial strengths. In a broader context, as the geopolitical rivalry between the U.S. and China intensifies, these discussions are becoming increasingly crucial. With China's military advancements and its ongoing pressure campaigns against Taiwan, U.S. strategic interests in the region are under significant scrutiny. The testimony also resonates with the ongoing analyses regarding China's military capabilities, which, despite rapid improvements, may still be tempered by internal challenges and uncertainties about the leadership's decision-making processes. As the situation unfolds, the stakes continue to rise. The U.S. must navigate a complex landscape marked by rising tensions where economic investments intertwine with national security interests. Moving forward, how the U.S. chooses to engage with Latin American countries in the context of these challenges will likely shape the geopolitical dynamics of the Western Hemisphere for years to come. In a significant diplomatic overture, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has called for a re-evaluation of the fraught relations between the United States and China, urging both nations to get along and stabilize their ties. Speaking at a gathering in New York with American business leaders and think tank representatives, Wang emphasized the necessity of mutual respect and practical cooperation to address the myriad challenges facing both countries and the global community. This call for collaboration comes amidst escalating tensions marked by trade disputes, technological rivalry, and military posturing. Wang's remarks were made during a visit coinciding with China's presidency of the United Nations Security Council, highlighting China's diplomatic aspirations on the world stage. He met with notable figures from the U.S.-China Business Council, including executives from Boeing and Goldman Sachs, signifying a concerted effort to engage American businesses that have expressed concerns over the deteriorating bilateral relations. China and the U.S. share extensive common interests and vast cooperation space, Wang stated, underscoring a vision for a more constructive relationship. Despite these diplomatic overtures, the backdrop of U.S.-China relations remains troubling. The two nations have been mired in disputes over technology, trade practices, and military strategies, leading to a climate of distrust. Wang's appeal for enhanced communication and the building of mutual trust reflects a recognition of the need to manage these complexities, especially as the global economy grapples with uncertainties. In a parallel development, China appears poised to shift away from its historically aggressive wolf warrior diplomacy, which has been characterized by confrontational rhetoric and actions against perceived adversaries. Recent reports indicate that Beijing is considering lifting its ban on South Korean popular culture known as Hallyu as early as May. This potential pivot to smile diplomacy, which emphasizes cooperation and cultural exchange, may signal China's desire to improve relations with its neighbors amid the ongoing U.S.-China rivalry. The anticipated lifting of the Hallyu ban, imposed in 2017 in response to South Korea's deployment of the THAAD missile defense system, is seen as a strategic move to strengthen ties with South Korea, a key U.S. ally. A senior Chinese official indicated that cultural exchanges would be the first step toward resuming broader cooperation, reflecting a growing recognition of the importance of soft power in foreign relations. As these diplomatic initiatives unfold, analysts suggest that China's shift may be partly fueled by its growing confidence in its domestic cultural industry. By easing restrictions on Korean cultural content, China may also be signaling a willingness to embrace a more diverse cultural exchange, which could foster goodwill and reduce anti-China sentiments in the region. The evolving dynamics of U.S.-China relations, marked by Wang Yi's conciliatory messages and China's potential cultural rapprochement with South Korea, suggest a complex interplay of diplomacy that seeks to navigate the turbulent waters of global geopolitics. As both nations grapple with their respective domestic and international challenges, the prospect of improved relations could have significant implications for global trade, security, and cultural exchange. Looking ahead, the coming months will be critical in determining whether these diplomatic overtures translate into substantive policy changes and a genuine thawing of relations. With both countries under pressure to address their disputes and enhance cooperation, the international community will be watching closely to see if this moment marks a turning point in U.S.-China relations or if tensions will continue to dominate the agenda.